Howdy folks, Wendy wanders the city, and today we are in the kind of in the loop. I just left the LaSalle Street Station uh, metro station, and here across the street we see the Tato Italiano restaurant, which is an old streetcar that they turned into a restaurant. But today we're going to focus on the Riverwalk as we go from Jackson north to Lake Street. We're going to meander a little bit to get over there. So we'll start here. We're in Printers Row. We're going to cross over and we'll hit Wells Street and we'll cross back under the highway at basically it's Franklin. So as you look forward here, let me see if I can get the camera a little bit more up in the air. We're seeing that, right, we just came out of the metro station, and here you can see the covered space. So in here, you're going to be able to board. So these usually have 6 to 8 cars, and then you'll travel out of the station southbound and head to the south and western suburbs. We're going to go ahead and cross over, coming up on Wells Street. Sky looks beautiful out there today. So as we get to Wells Street here, this is the last movable bridge on the south part of the Central District of Chicago. So you've got the Central Business District of Chicago, and Chicago has the highest number of movable bridges. And oh my gosh, I have somebody on my live. That's awesome. So when we do the lives, it's mostly me getting the raw footage, and then I will cultivate or curate the video at the back end. But we're heading down Harrison towards the river. This is the southernmost movable bridge in the middle or central district part of Chicago. You've got on the left, you've got the operating post office there. So that still is one of the biggest places for mail to come through Chicago. A lot of packages come through more than letters to come through that space. And as we clear these trees, we'll see, hey, Fuzzy Pink, thank you so much. Hopefully I'll be able to entertain you for a little bit. This is actually, this road closure up here is that up ahead of us, the train station runs underneath the buildings and the street. And for the past 2 years, they've torn up the street and you can see straight down to the railroad tracks. I've got some drone footage of that I'll put up at some point in the future. But down here, you'll see that you can see down into the train station. They're redoing that and then they'll resurface the street. Then you've got the old post office here. And this is now office space, and it's beautiful office space. I know somebody that can get me on the roof of this. So this is the largest urban rooftop park. If you look very closely, and I'll go ahead and change the camera over to the zoom. If you look, there's a bunch of windows in that vertical block that's there on the right-hand side of the frame. And just above that is some netting. Well, that netting is for a basketball court. There's a basketball court up there. And when they built the rooftop park up there, originally there was no netting up there. But the city said that we needed to protect the ball from falling down onto the highway. So that's why you now see that netting up there. So there's a beautiful little walkway up there. There's an outdoor bar, or it's an area where you could have an event. There's a pickleball court. There's basketball courts, a couple of restrooms up there. There's a beehive up there. So there's an active beehive, and there are beekeepers that come by and collect the honey every once in a while. Here we're walking under Ida B. Wells or the Congress Expressway on Franklin. If we were to, at that intersection, this street diverges. So the people that are on that street over there, they're going to go to Lower Wacker, and the people on this street are going to stay above ground on Franklin Avenue, or Franklin Street. This is a place where a lot of times you'll see buses staging. So the city buses will stage here. And they'll be out of service while they're here, but it's a place where they'll just sit in reserve until there's an opportunity for them to. The other one is, so on this side of the street, right, you're seeing northbound traffic, and hopefully the road noise isn't too bad. You're seeing northbound traffic, and this is coming off of Harrison, and that's going to be on to Franklin. Well, on the other side of the street, you can see there's the median in the middle. Those are the people that would have come down Lower Wacker, and this would have been the exit to come north on Franklin from there. So they're coming out of the subterranean streets onto the surface streets on that other side of the median there. It's a beautiful dog park right here. This is kind of taking advantage of what would be cloverleaf space of the Congress Expressway coming into the city, and then diverging into Franklin and Wells Street. Just for fun, let's go ahead and, well, there's no reason, you can see the entire park from here. The building right there in the middle, so you've got the very large, tall red building. That's Stock Exchange. But to the right of it, you see this very narrow building, and the top windows look like they have a little cross up there. That's the firehouse, and that's one of the earliest firehouses here in Chicago. If you watch my other channel, Windy City Thetan Watch, you'll oftentimes hear the fire trucks come by. Most of those fire trucks are coming out of this firehouse right here. This is a very large residential building, and it's interesting the way that they have their patio patterns on this building. But now we're going to see less residential and much more commercial space as we come into this area. Down here, we're going to see some bodegas, bars, restaurants. The building right here is 311 South Wacker, and you've heard me refer to it on the other channel as the White Castle building. I'm going to go vertical for just a second. So if you look up there, and you can't see it from this view, but from far away, there's like some block glass lighting up at the top. And the building right behind it is the Sears Tower. So it actually looks like this building's taller than the Sears Tower right now, but it's only because it's blocking the higher elements of the Sears Tower. Okay, we're going to continue west on Van Buren. So Harrison is the street that follows the Congress Expressway on the south side, and Van Buren is the street on the north side. These in the city center, the east-west streets are named after presidents. So you've got Lake Street, which doesn't count, but then it's Monroe, Madison, Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, Harrison, Polk, all of those streets. Now we're seeing a little bit better view of the old post office. If you're a Batman fan, this was the Gotham City Tower place. So this is where kind of they did some Batcave stuff in here, as well as some of the other scenes from the Batman movie. The Chicago riverfront, it doesn't really make it all the way down here. The building that's ahead of us and to our right, I think it's called like 300 River Plaza or Riverfront Plaza, Riverdale Plaza, something of that nature. But that building, the building butts up against the river's restraining walls. So you can't walk between the building and the river. But every building north of that will be able to walk between the building and the river. This, again, is a movable bridge. We talked about the movable bridge that we were on a little bit, which was the southernmost movable bridge. We'll look south here for just a moment. So that's a highway, and you can see that on the bridge, it still says Congress Highway. I'll put you back out on the big camera. Not sure you can see it, but right where the bridge meets there in the middle, it says Congress Parkway. And that's what that street historically was named. And several years ago, they renamed it to Ida B. Wells. So that's a highway, and it's strange. The highway kind of ends in this city street. Just beyond that, 1 block, the exact same distance that I am away from that bridge, there's another street just south of it. And that's the street we were on before where I said it was the southernmost movable bridge. And then you get Marina Tower, which is the curved building out there. And that's an old building. That building's been there for 20 years. The glass-facing building that's just in front of it is only 2 or 3 years old. It's called the Reed, and it's part of the Alta Group's hotels. And then the next time you have a bridge is 18th Street, but 18th Street is a high bridge, so you're going, oh, it's not a movable bridge. The bridge is high enough that it doesn't need to be movable. Fuzzy, hopefully the sound's coming through well. And ask me any questions you want. I can pretend to be smart. So this building houses a lot of big companies. So it's really only about 5 years old. It happened just before COVID, they opened up. So you can see the Uber sign there, but it's black on black, so I don't know if it'll show up that much. But you've got Uber, and then you've got Cisco's in here, Ferrara. What Ferrara is the pan candies, like Red Hots and Lemon Heads. Then FHL Bank of Chicago, Village MD, Uber Freight. Again, that's the Uber that you're seeing there. Walgreens is in here. I think it's their IT department. PepsiCo is in here. CBOE, Chicago Board of Options Exchange. And Vizient, I don't know what Vizient does. And then you've got some smaller tenants, True Blue, Home Chef, 8451, Kodo, CoinFlip, and Milwaukee Tools are in here. Someday I will bring you inside of there, and it's just beautiful. The artwork in there, it's really just a great, it's a beautiful interior, the way that they built this out, and they really pay homage to what this building used to be. A lot of the photography in there is showing how the old buildings, or the old conveyor belts worked, and how the packages moved around this building. So it's a massive building, 13 floors up. It's actually 3 different buildings. So this side, the north side, which has the Great Hall, and inside of here, you might be able to see it right now. That is a massively tall ceiling. Those chandeliers, that is 1 floor. So that chandelier is the ceiling of this first lobby. And this building was built. And then there's a building that is from here all the way south to Harrison. And also it has a similar tall structure like this, but that's still part of the same building. And then right on the riverfront, there's a smaller building that's only maybe 5 or 6 floors tall there. You can, from the inside, you can get to all of the places, but not all of the floors align. So certain offices, they have stairways inside of their office because they have the small floor and the big floor. So we're going to walk past, so it was 300 South Riverside was the name of the building that I talked about. We're going to walk through their park. So you can walk through the building, but they kind of say, hey, please don't, it's trespassing. They don't really stop anybody, but for some reason they like to have that out there. This is a neat little spot in the summertime. There's a bar here called Little Toasted, and they use this spot for their um, uh, for their outside eatery space. And then they've got an inside bar that we'll try to look through the window here. I'm not sure how much the glare will be knocking us down. On a Memorial Day, nothing's open here. So I think that you're seeing the reflection. You're not able to see in. We then see over here, this is Union Station, and that's the legacy portion of Union Station where the trains were, but no trains actually leave that section. That's more of a, it's the Great Hall is in there, and it's a beautiful space. I will take you in there. I can take pictures in there. Maybe we'll do that actually today. We'll go there and then we'll come out to the riverfront. So you can see a little toasted, right? This is their beer garden. Now the building in front of me is also Union Station, but it's commercial on the top floors. And there's a gym in here. There's a Walgreens or CVS, I can't remember. There's a few elements like that in here. But for the most part, the train station is subterranean. And we'll go walk in, and it's funny. I'm pointing with my arm, and you can't see my arm on camera, but we'll walk in the legacy portion of the building, and I'll show you the great room. This bus station to our left, as we come up here, this is newer, and it's probably only about 5 years old, but this is kind of what gets you off of the train system into the bus system here in Chicago. This street has just recently been shut down. I don't know if they're going to permanently close it or not. This is Canal Street, and it runs between the two sections of Union Station. The building over here, it's named the BMO building. It's a newer building, probably only 3 years old. They started during COVID, and then it's apparently been finished. It was finished during COVID, and now it's retail, and it's retail at the bottom and commercial all the way up. So just kind of a look down the Gothic columnar space here. This might look nice on a vertical. And then we'll head into the grand area down here. At Christmas time, they have a little train ride inside and a massive Christmas tree that they put in here. I probably got video of that somewhere. No doubt, yes. We do have some big vermin here. So I'll walk in, right? You've got Amtrak. It's open 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. daily. And then here you're seeing the Great Hall. I'm going to be a little quieter, but if you want to see Amish people, come here. But this is the grand glass ceiling up there. Then you've got the large platform over there, but you can't get up there. You'll see on this side as well, right? These are places that you can't get to, but it's such a colossal room. Let me see if vertical works on this. Yeah, so there you can kind of get an aspect of the grandiose. I don't think you're going to see this, but these stairs are so old and they've got so much use, you'll see curvature in the stone down here. I'll see if I can come back up to see if it can show off a little bit better on that process. So, yeah, I'm not sure you can see it, but there is absolutely a curvature in there because it's just an old marble and it's been worn away. We're hearing the speaker of some metro train that's probably about to leave. Now we're entering into the Grand Hall. Over here are some ways to get over to the Clinton Street exit. So you've got cabs over there. I think this was, darn it, the Elliot Ness movie, The Untouchables. When the baby comes down the stairs, it's either this stair. There's a similar parallel stair on the other side. Copyright, 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 copyright. And so you'll see this is kind of the waiting room. And yes, we're seeing a large number of Amish over here. I don't know if it'll show up on camera. This area is under construction, but you'll see the scaffolding, but it's still operational. If we go to the right, and I'll start, you know what, I'm going to start to the left because that way we can go upstairs on the right and start the lakefront or the riverfront where I wanted to. So there's down there. This is where the ticket area is. This is normally fully open. So all of these scaffoldings are supporting because they're fixing the concrete structures that are here. The restrooms. And then you've got a ramp down here, but I'll walk down this one because it's less populated, and there's a stairway on this side. So the people to my right are walking down a ramp, and I'm gonna walk forward and then have to come down some stairs. You know what? It's less crowded up here. So I'll walk out onto the train platforms here. This is track number 1. So we've got 1 and 3 here, and then so the north side is all odd rail stations or rail heads, and the south is all even. And just to kind of give you a lay of the land, right? We've got a train here with what, 10 cars in it, and these are the regionals. So these will take you out to the suburbs. There's a couple of intercity stops, but then it's out to the suburbs. And then we're looking again down track 3, out to the front. This leaves underneath a little steakhouse restaurant, and then you end up, the rail travels underneath the Ogilvy station. So Ogilvy station goes on the top floor and Union Station goes on the bottom floor. Now we will head out to the train station itself again. We're seeing some seating, and then that's kind of upstairs to concessions, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, Sbarro's. The last 2 tracks this direction are the Amtrak state rails. So these are the stage spaces for people that are going to go like to the West Coast or to the East Coast. So these are far travel Amtrak versus Metra. The regionals are Metra, the nationals are Amtrak. As we continue through here, we'll end up going to the south tracks. And the south tracks again the north tracks are gonna service northern suburbs and western suburbs, and the south tracks are gonna be southern suburbs and western suburbs. Now there's something interesting here. There's an older train. If you look over there to the far side, that red striped train, that is one of the older class Amtrak trains. Also an older class Amtrak train. And there's a train arriving on track 16 right now. So you can see the big headlight coming at us. I'll let them come in. It's going to be kind of loud. but this one's a Metro train, not an Amtrak train. If we look over here, you can see sunlight coming through. This is these are actually sunlights that are over a park there. And the area that was torn up is much further down, and we can't really see the light from there yet because it's that far away. And then we'll head upstairs. So had we gone right out of the Grand Station, we would have come down that stairway. And this is the escalators up to the retail space or street level as well. And then we'll punch out here and we'll be on the riverfront. One of the things you can do here is this junction. You can buy single cans of beer for your train ride home. So Chicago used to have, the Metro trains used to have a bar car on them, but now you have to buy your beer at the train station, but you can drink on the train. And then we'll head up the last escalator and we'll be at street level on the riverfront. Oh, if I look forward, I can see a Jehovah's Witness stand. I do want to pay special attention to this building over to our right. If you look at this building to our right, I'm going to go vertical for just a moment. That building has kind of a map on it. If you look at it, the very large thing that's coming down the center is the river. At the top, it's to the right is out to Lake Michigan, and the one that goes off the top of the building is the North Branch of the Chicago River. And then it's the South Branch of the Chicago River coming south or down the building. And that little red dot in the middle of the building is actually that building on the map. So I've always thought that was interesting, cool, fun to see. This building straight across from us, it kind of is labeled Miller Coors, but Miller Coors has since moved over to the BMO building that we just walked past. As we walk down the river, I'm going to lean over for just a second. So you've got a water taxi on their side. So what happens is if you come into the train station, these water taxis will take you from here on up to Michigan Avenue or even as far as the actual lake itself. This yellow boat here is a tourist boat, and it'll do both on the river, and sometimes it does lake tours as well. So sunset tours or speed boats, but it's a very fast boat. This is a boat that can create a huge wake. You can't create a wake in the river, but this boat will create a massive wake, and it's very fast. And the drivers or pilots of these ships can make you really dizzy if you're on this boat. And then kind of just a normal look north here, you're seeing a lot of glass structure, concrete structure, masonry structure. We're seeing a private boat come through real quick. And now we really start on to the Riverside Plaza. And so from here on up to the junction of the North and South Branch, we'll be able to stay next to the river. There'll be buildings to our left. Right. So these massive buildings, these are still office buildings. These are not residential. Same thing on the other side. All of those are going to be office buildings. You can see the Sears Tower in the background here. Here's the Sea Dog heading back up to the intersection. This is a little bit interesting. So you can rent a kayak, and the kayaks have to stay on the side of the river, but you can see the two kayaks coming underneath the bridge right there. So you've got the yellow and the blue kayak. Again, there's a heavy Amish presence because they can take the railroad. They usually can't take modern technology sources, but Railroad is one that they're allowed to take. Here is the Adams Street entrance for Union Station. Because of this construction, I can't push through that next block. So one thing that we can do is that on the other side of the river, it's actually hard to travel along the river, but this happens to be one of the blocks that I can travel along the river. Here's one of the architectural tour boats coming through. If you ever come to Chicago, the first thing you have to do, the number one on any list, needs to be the boat architectural tour. And behind it is yet another architectural tour. And these docents are they understand the city, but they all have an interesting sense of humor, and you're going to get a bunch of fun stories. See. I'm going to jump across here real quick. We're going to go past there's a little plaza between these next two buildings, and I think it's called the South Branch Bar. It's a fun place to come have a beer on a weekend, look at the city. So you can see the red fence over there. That's the construction that disallows us from right now, but normally we can walk along the river on the western side of the river, but I'm on the eastern side of the river right now. Here we've got the South Branch, and these glass doors are closed, but they kind of open up like a conference room divider wall, and they've got a little bar out here. As we keep moving north, there's a couple of impressive buildings here. So the building that's kind of in the center of the frame right now, it's got the glass center and the shiny glass center, and then the little duller glass center on the outsides. It's the Boeing building, and on the lower element, you can see the girders above that lower section. That happens to be the largest cantilever-supported building in the world. It's the Boeing building, but that building the part of the building that points towards us, it's really supported by the tall building in the background. And then the building to its left is an old masonry building, which I love, the red brick building, and then you've got the concrete building next to it. Again, we'll walk across this mobile bridge because it's much easier to traverse the city on the western side of the river. Are you back, Fuzzy Pink? Yes, yes. I'm going to slow down. There's a bike trying to come up past me. Which they're not supposed to be on sidewalks, but. Hey, Dee. So today we're walking the river north. Oh, this is killing me. Can I make it one more block? I love that they're renovating this area, but it's very challenging. Yeah, I think I can get across that one. So the awesome building here in the middle, that masonry building, is the Civic Opera House. And if you ever come to Chicago, you definitely want to take in a show at that location. It's got full season shows that are going on there. This one's Chicago Mercantile. I used to have a friend who worked in IT here. He was a security nerd. So the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, it's a commodities exchange, but it's for things like cotton and silk and wool and precise fabrics. So it truly is a mercantile exchange versus the idea you've got the options board, And the options board is more grains, and you'll get the natural resource like oil as well over there. This is kind of interesting. I have no idea if these are real rocks or if these are manufactured rocks, but this building on all corners has some form of that. You can see a water taxi up ahead of us turning around. I'll head out to the river real quick so we can kind of get a good view of that. So here we have a water taxi that's come down here and it's about to go north. On the weekends, it's not really operating as a water taxi. It's probably doing tourism. Here we see just another outdoor bar along the river. If you've watched on the other channel, Windy City Thetan Watch, and again, that channel is very much an anti-Scientology channel. But I've taken walks after I've left the Oregon protest days, and I've talked about a building, and you can see it really well here. I'm going to go vertical again. So the building that is the rightmost, the thin silver building, near the bottom, you'll notice that it narrows, and that is because it was able to find foundational, bedrock underneath it, and we call it the popsicle building because of its look, but it obstructs the view of the masonry building that's right behind it. So the people that used to live in the masonry building, they had a beautiful view of the river, and they thought that was locked in, that they'll always have that view of the river. And then some brilliant person came along and figured out how to anchor a building right there on the bedrock at the edge of the river. We're going to head back over to the west side now. And again, right, we've got the Civic Opera House. It's right here. Beautiful. You really want to be in there and take in a show someday. Now here we're seeing the Riverside Plaza to north, and if you look at the building behind it that has the curvature, I think it might be the Accenture building. It gets renamed very, very often, but that really is Ogilvie Station. So there's Union Station, which we just walked through, and here is Ogilvie Station, and Ogilvie Station is just another one of the train stations. Remember, there used to be thousands of trains that would come through Chicago. And then they started to consolidate. You've got, so the three operational stations that are still here, there's four operational stations. You've got LaSalle Street Station, which is down at LaSalle and Congress Expressway, or Ida B. Wells. Union Station, which is just a few blocks south of us when we walk through it. Ogilvie Station, which is this glass front building with the curvature on the front ahead of me. And then just at the north end of Grant Park is I think they call it the Illinois Center Station. And that's the one that has the electric tracks that go to Indiana. You can also go south to like Beverly on those tracks as well. But those are the four operational train stations still here in the city. Kind of going to let traffic come through. I get a chance to go through on my own. When I was a young lad, I was involved in a fundamentalist Christian church, and Channel 38 was the Christian TV channel here. And Channel 38's antenna was way up there. And I knew the guy that did the night operations there. So every once in a while, he would be able to take me up there, and we would go out. And it's like 44 stories up at that point. And it's open air. Like, if you wanted to, you could fall off the edge of a building. By the way, you should never want to fall off the edge of a 44-story building. It will be very painful. I was born very close to Chicago. So I've almost always, except for 1 year of my life, lived within 30 miles of this spot. I spent a lot of time up here, even when I was, although I lived outside the city, we would still come down here. It was just an awesome event when we were growing up. Give you kind of the head-on view of the Civic Opera House. Now, the Opera House naturally is just on the lower levels, and then it becomes corporate or office space above that. And earlier we talked about it, that this is a cantilevered building. You can see the Boeing building ahead of me. That is not supported, although there are vertical supports here. The vast majority of the weight of this wing of this building is held up by the tower on the north side of it. I've talked about this before, but let's kind of look at this bridge real quick. And if you see here, there's two sections that meet in the middle there. And underneath the far side, there's a concrete weight that is approximately the same weight as the bridge. And they can basically raise and lower these bridges with a lawnmower motor, right? It doesn't take much at all. They're very well balanced. But it's like they're so well balanced that after you paint them, you have to recalibrate them. So, no, it's funny, Dee. If you tell somebody from outside of Illinois where you were born, I have to say Chicago. But if I tell somebody from Chicago where I was born, I'll say my actual hometown. Because if you're in Illinois, you understand what these towns are. But if you're outside of Illinois, it's just easier to say I was born in Chicago. If we look down here, that clock tower, and I know I'm sending you straight into the sun, but that clock tower is over the tracks of Ogilvy. So Ogilvy, those trains leave town above ground. And when Union Station trains leave, they're underground and they travel underneath the Ogilvy train stations. Here we're seeing another water taxi. Again, it's more of a tourist item on the holidays and weekends. And now we're in the Boeing Plaza right now. We've got the river to our right. I'll walk a little bit closer there so you can capture a little bit more of it. There is a park below us. It's very hard to get into the park at this end because it's locked. But oftentimes at this end, you can get in because that building has some residential element to it. So the residents have access to the lowest level. Right, yeah, it's like I live in Cummins, Georgia. Where? I live in Atlanta. Right. So right across from us is Bazaar Meat, and that's the Jose Andres place. I haven't been there yet, but I'm definitely excited to go there someday. Now, Randolph Street, this is, if we followed it all the way to the lake, we'd cut across, this is the top edge of Grant Park. It does make it all the way to the lake, but this would be, just for a marking point, it would be the top edge of Grant Park. This next building that we talked about before, right, the Popsicle building, it's got a small cheval down here, and there's an Au Cheval in the West Loop, which is a hoity-toity restaurant, but this is their small version of it, and you can only get the hamburger, the cheeseburger, and the fries here. But let me see if I can walk out here and give you a better view of this idea that, right, just that thin structure in the middle is what supports this building, and then it moves outward to then support all of that residential. And as I talked about before, this building back here used to have unobstructed views of the river, but they no longer do. So curse you, this building, if I'm an owner of that building. I'm I'm going to walk up through this garden because I just think it's really pretty. That, you know, the city tries its best to create green space. You know, you've got the massive green space of the Humboldt Parks, the Grant Parks, Washington Park, Jackson Park, Garfield Park, the conservatory up there. I already said Humboldt. But then there's always these little green patches of space. So we'll just walk up here. The alliums here are awesome. These are massive blossoms that are going on right now. And as we get to the other end, we'll be to Lake Street, which Lake Street has the L running over the top of it. And this is the L leaving the loop. So this wouldn't be considered part of the loop. The loop is on the other side of the river. But we're going to see the L train platform or train tracks as we move over to this. This is just a beautiful space. So even if I did live in this building, you still get a beautiful view of this park. And now as we push through here, we're going to see a single leaf bascule bridge once I get down to the bottom. So the bridge that I showed you before is a double leaf bascule bridge, and that means that it rises from both sides. A single leaf only rises from one side. Well, it's only anchored on one side. We're going to head down to Lake Street now, and this is basically the intersection. So if I stop here for a second, the white or blonde masonry building in the middle, that's Merchandise Mart. That was the crown jewel of the Kennedy dynasty. It was at one point the largest retail space in the world. These are Wolf Point Towers. So these are newer. These are all residential over here. We're going to get a good shot of the train coming through here. So this is the green line, and it says Harlem. So this is going all the way out to Oak Park. And on the far side of the loop, it goes south all the way to either Cottage Grove or to Ashland on the south side. Yeah, that park is really well maintained. I'm sure that somebody's paying a lot of money for that to occur, but kudos to them. And again, now we've got the train here. Now this train is still movable, or this bridge is still movable. So not only do the cars stop, but the train has to stop when boats come through. Boats always have the right of way on navigable rivers. So navigable rivers are federally mandated. And Chicago River happens to be a navigable river. So you cannot create a bridge or a structure that would obstruct boats from being able to pass through there. Then I'm going to walk up to the bridge, the face here. So if we look at this, right, we've got the Merchandise Mart, which we saw before. This is the intersection of the North Branch and the South Branch of the Chicago River. If you see straight ahead of me, that's going to go east-west. Oh, and we're fortunate right now. There's a train going over the LaSalle Street Bridge, which is similar to this Lake Street Bridge, where when boats are traveling down here, the train stops to go through there. As we look down here, that area of the river on the south side, so you see the park where the people are sitting, the entire south side is pedestrian friendly. Now, in this situation, it's a park in this room. They call everything between two bridges a room on that section, but beyond that, you'll see different bars on the river. and just a beautiful place to kind of stay there. You can see a brick building in the middle, so the red brick building, and it's got that little high point in the middle with the, let me see if I can switch over the camera real quick. I'll go to telephoto. And in the middle, right now in the middle, you see the red masonry building with the little tower in the middle. That's the Whirlpool building, so that's where Whirlpool used to be. Behind it used to be the Quaker Oats building, and then Pepsi bought them, and Pepsi moved them out, so I don't think it's Quaker Oats anymore. Again, you've got the merchandise mart, but with the telephoto, you can't see much else but that. Here we can see another tour boat coming down from the North Branch in this space. And the bridge in the background, that is a single leaf bascule bridge. Now that bridge hasn't been operational for many years, and it's that the building to its right used to be a Tribune-owned element, so that was how paper got into the printing area of the Tribune. Now the Tribune printing happens on the other side of the street, and actually I don't even think it happens in Chicago anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the lower level here. Let me switch my camera back. We'll go down to the lower level. Now, I can go up to the upper level as well, but the upper level, I have to kind of exit at the front of this building. There's a steakhouse on the far side of this patio. But here, I can make it almost all the way to the next street. Kind of keep giving you the view of the river as we come down here. This is a very quiet place. I love when I'm on a run, I love being down here. You know, in the morning, you're going to be the only one down here. We can see a somewhat important building. Well, there's the tower, the building with the tall spire out of the top of it. That happens to be the ex-president branded tower. But then in front of that, you see those curved elements, and we always called it the corncob buildings, but those are Marina Towers. And Marina Towers has a little bit of a marine underneath it, so there's maybe 6 slips. It's probably the most expensive harbor in Chicago. And we won't get to the point where we can see all the way down the river, but we're seeing kind of the width of the river. And farther down there, we can see that there's buildings because the river does jog just a little bit at that far end of this section. Just looking up here, I see another tour boat coming through. But come back. Keep giving you the view down the east-west stretch until we kind of fall behind Wolf Point Towers. As we go north up here, I'm going to have to cross over to the other side because at the next intersection, Kinsey Street, it becomes private and I can't walk along the river there. But on the other side is the East Bank Club, and it's a rich man's health club, rich person's health club. You know, I think it's multiple hundreds of dollars a month to be a member there, but it's a be all place. It's where you make deals if you're a well-to-do person. We're basically on the front. It's free to pedestrians, right? So it's free to walk along here, but we're really on the front porch of these residences right here. Now, in order for us to get all the way to Kinsey Street, we have to kind of head out to, I'm pretty sure it's Canal Street that we'll go out to. So we'll go out to Canal. The black bridge in front of me is the superstructure or infrastructure of the trains leaving Ogilvie Station. So this is kind of interesting. The Union Station, let me see if I can do it on the... So that entrance is Union Station. So these are the trains leave the station coming north. And then they'll come over here and you'll see that they will travel underneath the Ogilvie Station, which is also trains going north. Now the Union Station goes west before it goes north. So it goes west out to Western Avenue, and then the train kind of split, the tracks split. You can either continue west or you can go north. We're starting to get a little bit of rain, but I think I can handle it for a little bit more. I'll put you back on the small camera. I have to stop walking when I'm trying to tap the camera. I keep on hitting the wrong button 17, 20 times. This building on our right is interesting. It's just a unique shape. And when I get on the bridge, I'll look back at it and you'll see that it's got this very sharp, angular front to the river and a lot of wrought iron railings and stairways. See if I can get past our... I can hear a Union Station coming, right? So there's the Union Station train coming out of that dark tunnel, and it's about to go underneath the Ogilvie Station tunnels, or trains. So this is Kinsey Park, and that's private area, so I can't really get over there anymore. But I am going to go ahead and cross real quick. There's a little peak south back towards the intersection of the north and south branch of the Chicago River. We're going to head down to where you see the kayaks there. And at that next bridge, I'll be able to show you kind of the gear works of how a bascule bridge works. Dee, where did you see debris? Trying to get a gauge for where you saw that. Oh, and I did tell you that I would show you that the sharp angles of that building that were over there. Oh, there's this right here. That might be what we're talking about. And these are called pilings. And they're really there to help the boats that are coming down here not hit the critical parts of the bridge. I can't remember the year, but there was a Chicago flood many years ago, probably 15, 20 years ago. And I was listening to it on the radio, and it had the War of the Worlds effect, that they were talking about this flood that was going on in Chicago. and I couldn't understand what are they talking about. And what had happened is a boat had hit one of these, and much of the central district, so all of the elements south of us, or in the loop that we'd say, there's all kinds of subterranean ways around there. So that's how you delivered coal, that's how you delivered gas, that's how you delivered product. And a boat had hit that, and when the boat hit it, it punctured the wall into that subterranean space, and it just flooded everything. So, like the bottom of Marshall Fields, the pedestrian way, it was just bizarre because you're listening to this report on the radio, and it's sunny as all get out. This boat's traveling a little fast. You're not supposed to create weights here on the river, so let's not call the police yet. But and on this side, you're seeing all of the kayaks. So there's 2-man kayaks, 1-man kayaks. You can put some with little motors on the edge, like they'll do an electric motor on the end. Some people have their own private yachts, or not yachts, private kayaks, and they'll be able to put in here. There's a neat ivy wall as you go through here. This, again, is a very little traveled corridor. At this point, we'll be in North Loop or Streeterville. North Loop this far west, and then Streeterville the closer you get to the lake. It's another big restaurant district. So if just on the other side of this building, you're going to see an awful lot of restaurants in that area. Beautiful. It looks like French townhomes over here. Rain's coming a little bit more, but I don't think you're really seeing it on camera. You can see the people on the boat. They're putting on their clear plastics. I'm staying close to the building, so I'm staying a little bit drier. You know, I'm getting a little bit wet, but life goes on. Turns out most humans are waterproof. Now, remember, these lives are just so I can capture the raw footage, and then I'll put together stories for curated film later on to put up on the channel. But you all get to say, I was there. I saw when he did it. We'll walk off the river again to this next building. I have to walk around, but then I can get back to the river. Run across here real quick. Now we're back into incredibly residential, right? That everything you're seeing over here that's got any kind of height is still residential. There's no office buildings down here. There's actually also very limited retail. There's not as much retail here as there are like in Printers Row. It's 100% retail at the ground level. Here, the residences came first. Well, they were probably all factories. So the factories came first, and then they converted them over to condo buildings and didn't think about the potential of residential. And they probably also, you know, at a certain point, people don't like people coming by their house, so there's no reason to put residential down there. I only want people that belong here to be here. There's a building up here that has some of the quotes that all protesters should all know. And by the way, my other channel is a protesting channel. I'm somebody who is, I'm not a fan of the Church of Scientology, and I do whatever I can to disallow it from expanding. But the quotes on this wall are remarkable to me, right? To sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards of men. Abraham Lincoln. I would like to be remembered as a person who wanted to be free so other people would also be free. Rosa Parks. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. And then you've got the 7-Eleven here on the corner. And here, I think there's a sushi restaurant somewhere back in here. There's a barber, yeah, a barber and a sushi restaurant. And then I'm gonna walk back to the river. If we go a little bit further north right here, we end up hitting Cabrini Green, which Cabrini Green right now is a beautiful residential space. But back in the day, it would have been an incredibly it was a project, and it would have been an incredibly dangerous place to be. You can still see that there are people that, my guess is that they had rent stabilization in that next neighborhood north. And so they want to knock down those buildings, but they have to wait until the last leaseholder expires or takes a buyout. So now we're coming back up to the river. On the far side is Chicago Tribune building. And on this side, again, still residential. It'll all be residential for, well, it's residential until you hit the northern boundaries of Chicago at this point in time. Gonna climb underneath the trees here. Beautiful little park up here.
It's really hard to make big ones.
You can see several people backed up underneath the trees trying to avoid or wait out the rain. Here we've got a gentleman in a blow-up kayak coming up the river. It's K2 Explorer. This next section, well, actually the rain seems to have kind of stopped, or it's slowing down quite a bit right now. But this next section, I'll be covered by roof. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. I've always said Chicago has some of the most incredible public artwork. So this is Rora by Ginny Sykes, and it was dedicated under the regime of Richard M. Daley. The Daleys have now been so long out of office, I can't remember if Richard M. or Richard J. is the older and which one's the younger. I'm going to have to wait until I get around the corner because I have to get my bearings. But one of these next two buildings is going to be the old Woolworth building. And right, that was one of the catalog houses. And notice it's the next building up. It's not this building, but I'll reach out to the river to show you something with that. It was a catalog mail house like a Sears Roebuck or a J.C. Penney. And you'll see these large bay windows at the ground level. Thanks, Dee. I appreciate it. So in this building that we see ahead of us, it's got all of those large bays at the bottom. Well, all of those bays allowed a rail car to come out and then to load stuff on boats. So they took very big advantage of the idea of how to leverage both the rail and the river traffic or boat traffic, because those were the two cheapest forms of transportation at the time, and they were very reliable. It's a beautiful little green space down here, and again, there's some hidden wonders of Chicago that if you don't take the time to move away from the lakefront or move away from the city central district, you won't see some of the beauty that's down here. This next bridge, which is Chicago Avenue, we're going to see the gears that actually work a bascule bridge. Okay, again, we've got the Chicago Tribune building across the street here. We've got Chicago Avenue right here. And at Chicago Avenue, when you go north of Chicago Avenue, the river splits to go around Goose Island. Goose Island today is a beer company, back in the day, manufacturing island. And it was reclaimed land. Howdy. I'll be curious and have to figure out what the dog count for today is. This artwork, I don't know who puts it here, but it rotates. Like, you'll see different things here in different seasons. But then as you look behind it, you can see the gear and the infrastructure and how this particular bridge works in such a mechanical fashion. It's very impressive to me to see this. And then this gearing system, again, it's powered by such a low force engine, because what's occurring right here is this is all counterweight. And this counterweight is basically equivalent to the weight of the road that supports the bridge, that the bridge is supporting. So it really doesn't take that much energy to raise and lower this bridge. And now we head a little bit further out. And this will be basically our last part of the riverfront that's readily accessible. From this point forward, you're going to have to kind of move. You can go in and out to the bridge, but you're usually seeing a single business's frontage, or a single business's frontage is the best way to say it. But here we'll also see that the river divides right here. And these come back together up at North Avenue. So from here, which we're at 700, Chicago is 700 North, and North Avenue is 1600 North. So for the next 9 blocks, approximately a mile, a little over a mile, the river splits. The tall superstructure over there is a materials plant, so they're using gravel. They're not mining, they're storing gravel. I don't know where that gravel actually comes from. But I think it's a place where they break big rocks into little rocks, is the best way I'd explain it. Not sure you'll be able to see this, but there's a little bit of wood floating out here. It is early spring, so there's some ducklings over there behind the wall. Don't know if you'll see them on here or not. Got another kayaker coming down the river. I think he's got a barley soda with him. Looks like somebody's taking advantage of their riverfront property, having a little bit of a family Memorial Day barbecue. You'll notice that we saw the sign there that said private dock. So in the summertime, and we'll see a couple of boats up here, this is a place where you could also moor your boat. Very confident that these are seasonal spots. These are not transient spots. I'll walk out there real quick. So here we see the Georgia. It's beautiful. Just boats are something I love. I just can't afford. There's a day where I want to be a world traveler and I want to buy a catamaran sailboat and sail around the world. Now, we're going to see a sign here. You can actually walk down the rest of this concrete area, but there's no exit up there. So I'm going to go ahead and take the exit here. You can see an arched bridge up there, and that is Halstead. And just north of it will be Division, and Division is the 1200 Street. So that's going to be halfway through Goose Island. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and end the live here. I appreciate those of you who are in here. Thanks, Fuzzy. Thanks, Dee. And I might have one more person in here. Thanks for watching it. Again, the raw footage is just so that you guys can interact if you want to. Then I'll take this and I'll curate the film later on. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Hope to see you later.